Wealth does not guarantee prosperity. And Venezuela is one of the clearest, most brutal examples in modern history. This is a country sitting on the largest proven oil reserves on Earth. More than Saudi Arabia, more than the United States. Enough natural wealth to secure generations of prosperity, almost by default. Yet, instead of becoming rich, Venezuela collapsed. In less than a decade, over 80% of its economy vanished. Inflation reached levels usually associated with failed states. Millions fled the country. Institutions hollowed out. Oil production, the one thing Venezuela had, broke down. This wasn't bad luck. And it wasn't inevitable. So how did one of the most resource-rich countries on the planet end up among the poorest? Were the causes internal, external, or both? And is there any realistic path back? To answer that, we have to start with oil. For over a century, oil defined Venezuela's economy. Commercial production surged in the 1920s, and by the mid-20th century, oil made up around 90% of exports. The state became dependent on rent from oil rather than productivity from people. In the 1960s, Venezuela helped found OPEC, gaining pricing power alongside major producers. Its oil industry was later nationalized under PDVSA, giving the government direct control over enormous revenue streams. For a time, this worked. Venezuela became one of the wealthiest countries in Latin America. Living standards rose, the currency strengthened, the state expanded. But the economy developed a fatal imbalance. Oil revenue replaced institutions, diversification, and long-term planning. Manufacturing collapsed, agriculture shrank, imports replaced domestic production. This is Dutch disease, but on an extreme scale. When oil prices surged in the early 2000s, the government doubled down instead of correcting course. Welfare spending exploded, subsidies expanded, public employment ballooned. Poverty initially fell, building political loyalty. But almost none of the oil money was invested for the future. Unlike countries that saved during booms, Venezuela spent everything immediately. Corruption became systemic. Billions of dollars disappeared through mismanagement and outright theft. Skilled professionals were pushed out of key institutions and replaced with political loyalists. Even PDVSA, once one of the most competent oil companies in the world, began to collapse from within. When oil prices fell after 2014, the entire system imploded. Oil revenues dropped by more than 90%. Inflation spiraled into hyperinflation, peaking above 130,000% in 2018. By then, the economy had already been hollowed out. Sanctions are often blamed for Venezuela's collapse, but this gets the timeline wrong. The economy was already in freefall before major sanctions took effect. Sanctions worsened the damage, but they did not cause it. The deeper problem was governance. Property rights effectively disappeared. Assets could be seized without compensation. Investors fled. Domestic capital escaped. More than 6 million people emigrated, including engineers, doctors, and managers needed to run the economy. Despite having the world's largest oil reserves, Venezuela today struggles to extract oil at scale. It lacks investment, expertise, trust, and human capital. Now compare this with Norway. Norway also nationalized its oil industry, but instead of spending revenues directly, it invested them through a sovereign wealth fund. Oil income was saved, invested globally, and only the returns could be spent. Today, that fund is worth over $1.6 trillion. Venezuela chose the opposite approach: immediate consumption, political control, and unchecked corruption. The result was predictable. According to estimates from the IMF, Venezuela's GDP today is roughly $100 billion, with GDP per capita among the lowest in the region. Inflation remains extreme, crime is rampant, confidence is near zero. So can Venezuela recover? In theory, yes, but only with radical institutional change, restored property rights, professional management of oil, open capital markets, and political legitimacy. None of that is happening. Instead, instability continues, isolation deepens, capital stays away. Venezuela stands as the clearest modern warning of the resource curse. Not because it had oil, but because it failed to manage power. This wasn't fate, it was choice. And that is why Venezuela belongs at the very bottom of the economics leaderboard.